The Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education has launched a new education curriculum meant to suit the current education trends. Welcome to this broadcast of Let's Talk Education, a program that will be delving deeper into the updated education curriculum. My name is Marion Shaba. The updated education curriculum is meant to modernize the education system to be in line with new technologies and prepare students to be equipped with skills that include critical thinking, problem-solving abilities, leadership skills, good communication skills, team building, and technological skills. And of course, to speak more on this new curriculum, I'm joined by Professor Prof. Mavhima, who is the Deputy Minister for the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. Professor Mavhima, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Marion, and I'm very glad to be here.
Great. We're also joined by Mrs. Ellen Machingaidze, who is the Assistant Director in charge of tests, development, research and evaluation at the Zimbabwe School Examinations Council, ZIMSEC. Mrs. Machingaidze, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Marion. Good evening.
Good evening. I'll start with you, Professor Mavhima.
Yes.
What was the rationale of the new curriculum that we're talking about today?
The main rationale of the new curriculum is to change our education system so that it can contribute in a better way to the socio-economic transformation of this country. You will realize, Marion, that many countries are undergoing the same process that we went through in order to equip their human capital with the necessary skills to carry those countries into the 21st century, prepare them for competitiveness economically. And as Zimbabwe, we wanted to do the same thing. And in many ways, this had been overdue because if you remember very well, in 1999, there was a report from a commission that had been set up by His Excellency the President to review our education curriculum. This commission made contributions and suggestions as to how we should go ahead and change our curriculum in order to prepare our human capital for development in the 21st century, and also to enhance our economic and social transformation in Zimbabwe. We took it up in 2013 when the new government was sworn in. We in the Ministry of Education then took up the CIAT report, or the commission report, or the Nziramasanga report as it was known, and we looked at its recommendations, but we said it has been 13 years since it was produced. So we went on a review of our own in order to get the new information, because a lot of things had changed. And so since 2014, November 2014, we went through a consultative process throughout the country to look at suggestions from various stakeholders as to where we should go with the curriculum. And then once we got that, we put it together with the recommendations of the original commission. And after that, we came up with what was known as a zero draft of the recommendations to update our new curriculum. And this zero draft went back to Cabinet, and Cabinet approved it in September of 2015. And after that, we started developing syllabi, various syllabi, to go with the various learning areas that we had developed. But in a nutshell, the rationale is to say Zimbabwe should have human capital that aids it in achieving the socio-economic transformation that makes the country competitive in the 21st century.
Professor Mavhima, when you speak of change, the implication is there was something wrong with the previous education curriculum that we had.
Yes.
Which major pointers are we looking at that were wrong in the previous curriculum that are being addressed in this updated curriculum?
There are a number of things that came out from the Indira Masanga Commission, which were also confirmed through the consultative process that we went through. In actual fact, the first round of consultations, which took place at all the schools in the country, were attended by almost 1 million people. And these people made their contributions. What they said about our curriculum, which confirmed the Indira Masanga Commission report, was that we were too theoretically oriented. We were not really practical. We're not emphasizing things that would produce a self-sufficient graduate. We were not addressing issues of critical thinking, problem solving. It was almost like we were engaging in rote learning and producing a graduate that had a lot of knowledge, factual knowledge, who could actually regurgitate what they learned in, through the lessons as well as from their books, but without a clear understanding of how we can solve the social problems, the economic problems that we have, without producing a graduate who could actually say, I am now on my own. I can, pick up my life and be self-sufficient and contribute to solving the social and economic problems that affect this country. We also had a problem that we were not well-grounded philosophically to say what is the philosophy that guides our education system. So there were quite a number of problems. We also wanted to have an orientation towards science, mathematics, engineering, technology, which feeds back into issues of innovation and issues of problem solving. We are a country that needs to transform itself from low income status to high income status. We want to do that through an innovative process. We want to create the human capital that can lead to that. We want to industrialize. How do we industrialize? With a system that is not problem solving in nature. We want Zimbabweans to be proud to be Zimbabweans. And we need, therefore, to strengthen areas of heritage studies, of patriotism, so that Zimbabweans can walk with their shoulders high and say, I am a Zimbabwean. And that preparation has to take place in our education system. And this is what we had to do through this updated curriculum.
Professor Mavhima, what are some of the new learning areas that are being updated in this curriculum?
You will realize that because of our constitution, our new constitution, the 2013 constitution, we have now embraced 16 languages, which include English and 14 indigenous languages, as well as sign language. So we have 14 languages. So we have various indigenous languages that have to be taught at various levels of our education system. We also have visual and performance arts. It's an area that we had really neglected in our education system. But we have examples of Zimbabweans who have done extremely well in those areas. And they've done that mainly through their own effort, without preparation in our education system. Now we want to provide a platform where Zimbabwean, potential Zimbabwean artists can be developed in their early ages, and then they can excel into the rest of their lives. We have also introduced mass displays. We have agriculture, and agriculture You realize we've introduced agriculture at the junior level, which is grade 3 to grade 7. This is coming from the fact that we are basically an agricultural economy, and we have gone through the land reform program, and we need to prepare our people, those who with special interest in agriculture, to be able to work various professions in the agricultural field, because it's also the backbone of our economy. We also have science and technology from a very early age, infant level. We're introducing science and technology at the junior level, and also strengthening the science and technology at secondary school level, as well as at high school. Then we have heritage studies, which goes back to the issue of patriotism and making Zimbabweans feel proud to be Zimbabweans. Those are some of the new learning areas that we have.
Thank you so much, Professor Mavhima. On that note, we take a break. You're watching Let's Talk Education. Stay with us. Welcome back to Let's Talk Education, where we are delving deeper into the updated education curriculum. In the studio, I'm joined by Professor Paul Mavhima, who is the Deputy Minister in the Ministry of Primary Education, and Mrs. Ellen Machingaidze, who is the Assistant Director in charge of Tests Development, Research and Evaluation at the Zimbabwe School Examinations Council, ZIMSEC. Now I'm coming to you, Mrs. Machingaidze. How is the assessment going to be structured in view of the updated curriculum?
Thank you, Marion. First of all, I think the most important thing is that, nothing much has changed. We have a lot of worries as to, the whole assessment system having changed, but nothing has changed. We have added something onto what was existing. ZIMSEC examines the curriculum as determined by ministry. And as a result, what Professor Mavhima was talking about, ZIMSEC just assesses everything. What was happening before, we used to be working on summative evaluations, which is the final exams we had at grade 7, at Form 4, and at Form 6. But what we are saying is that we are now going to add on continuous assessment. And continuous assessment is an assessment which doesn't leave the evaluation of what a child knows to the last day, the 2 hours at the end. When we are saying it's examination in history, geography, and you say within those minutes, we are going to determine whether you are going to get an A or B. The beauty of the new curriculum is that as a child learns, we will have a 30% set aside to say, we are going to assess you as you learn, and you get marks which have nothing to do with the examination. So they'll get up to 30% in continuous assessment. And then the 70%, which used to be 100% of the exam we know, is now 70%, and we add on the 30%. So that will be the new framework whereby all subjects, not just practical subjects, will now be getting practical assessment as children learn. And the other thing to add on to that is that it's nothing new again to ZIMSEC. People are worried we are introducing something new. Even before we localized when it was Cambridge, we had practical assessments in practical subjects. And we had, the tasks sent to schools, the teachers in the schools worked with the children. They were given assessment schemes where they put marks, and those marks we moderated at national venues organized by ZIMSEC. And this is exactly the same format which will follow.
Except
all what we are saying is that in history, where we used to have just an exam, we now also send a task to say to the teacher in the school, as a child is learning history, let them, make a research in their area, local area, about maybe their elders, about the religious groupings in their area, or whatever. And they are assessed as they do that kind of research, which is live history. We can talk about, anything, mathematics. People think it's just a question of going to an exam and using the formulas and all that. And we are saying mathematics is used on a daily basis. We will send tasks to say, as they learn, let them do these tasks. Actually, at this point, we have already been working on tasks for term 1. It's things which are coming a bit late, but we'll definitely have tasks from term 2, whereby, students are already doing this in all subjects. So it won't be just practical subjects, woodwork, metalwork, fashion and fabrics, but all of them, the whole range. They will have a 30% of children being assessed as they learn, which will work for formative and the summative evaluation. When I say formative, we are assessing, but the teacher can use that information to help the children grow in their competencies.
Now, coming back to you, Professor Mavhima, how is this updated curriculum going to be implemented in the schools?
We have started implementing it right from the beginning. We took what we call a phased approach to the implementation of the new curriculum. We started with basically the consultations. Then we went into what we call the inception phase, where we were developing the various syllabi and having them tested to make sure that they are valid, they will produce the competencies and the skills that we need our learners to have at the end of each stage in their education career. Then this year we started in what we call phase 1 of actual implementation. And this phase 1 of actual implementation is where we have now put the following grades on the new updated curriculum platform: ECD-A, grade 1 and grade 3 in the primary school level, and then forms 1, 3 and 5 in secondary school. So this is and then we progress like that. So next year it will be ECD-A, ECD-B, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 and grade 4 in the primary school, who will be on the new platform. And then we progress like that until we get to grade 7. And then in the secondary school, Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, Form 4, Form 5 and Form 6. We are almost done. We are done basically as far as the secondary school is concerned. So those who write Form 4 next year, the O-level exam, are actually going to do it on the new curriculum, on the basis of the updated curriculum. And those who are writing A-levels in 2018 are actually doing it on the updated curriculum. And you realize that by 2022, actually, we will have our first exam, not for grade 7, but for junior school exam, because grade 3 to grade 7, that level, we now call it junior school. We have the infant, which is ECD-A, ECD-B, grade 1 and grade 2. And then we have the junior school, and then secondary school, which is still divided between Form 1 to 4, and then the A-level, which is the last 2 years of the school career of our learner.
Professor Mavhima, I'm sorry I have to cut you off there. We've run out of time, but I would like to thank you both for having come to the studio for these live broadcasts. Viewers will be giving you the second episode of Let's Talk Education next week at the same time. Of course, in the studio I had Professor Paul Mavhima, who is the Deputy Minister in the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, and I also had Mrs. Ellen Machingaidze, who is the Assistant Director in charge of Tests, Development, Research and Evaluation at the Zimbabwe School Examinations Council, ZIMSEC. Let's meet again next week. Good night.